Hello, folks. Welcome to Business Spotlight. It's great to see you. The NHS is a colossal organisation. You know, it accounts for more than 10% of our GDP and employs more than 1.5 million people. In London alone, it spends £3.7 billion a year. And my next guest is responsible for the team that runs the procurement for 1.2 billion of that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my fabulous guest, Michael Pace. It's brilliant to see you, Michael. Thank you so much for joining. Let's drive straight in. How on earth did you come to be in a role that's taking care of 1.2 billion pounds worth of procurement a year?
Didn't go to university. Left school with not much really. Was pretty uninspired by it, and looked to get out as quickly as I could, and then suddenly realised that the real world, and thought, probably made a little bit of a mistake there. But was really lucky, landed on my feet, landed with a couple of really good organisations, helped me get my qualifications and get myself sorted out. Was able to do lots of different things within that organisation, and like a number of people in procurement sort of fell into it, if you like, found that I've really enjoyed what I was doing, and then decided that that's where I wanted my career to be. Traveled globally, and come back to the UK and came back into the NHS, which I've spent a lot of my career in, and ended up here 4.5 years ago.
Hey, look, there's a couple of things in there, Michael. Look, first of all, number one, you make your own luck, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, you don't get to be in the role that you're in now without kind of an awful lot of grafting. So, you know, for all those folks that are doing their GCSEs right now, they're not the be all and end all, right?
Yeah. I've got 3 kids myself, and I learned from my mistakes. I pushed them really, really hard, and they did do their GCSEs, and they've done really well. So, and 2 of them went off to university. So that's good. Yeah, so don't learn just from me.
There's probably been a few challenges along the way. I'm sure it's not been a straight path. What are the challenges that you face in your role now, and how do you overcome those challenges?
I suppose the biggest challenge really is people, and that I'm part of a massive system. I'm a small part in a really, really big system, and you know it's about how you get along with people and how you bring people along on that particular journey, both internally within my team. We've had massive growth over the last 4 years. We've gone from a team of just under 40 people to over 100 people now. We're influencing more spend with more people coming in. I'm not in a position where I can go and tell the NHS this is what you've got to do and how you've got to do it. I've got to bring people along. So it's, you know, working with NHS England and understanding what their direction of travel is, bringing that back to my members in London, and working with the individual providers in London, and looking at how we collaborate and work together, and drive things forward. So the biggest challenge is people. You can't get away from that.
That'd be the same between, you know, a public sector organisation and a private sector as well, right? It's all about the people in the team. Thinking about some of the folks that are watching this, a lot of them will be running their own businesses or leading businesses, and they're probably thinking and scratching their heads around how on earth do we get involved with the NHS? So before we kind of ask the positive, how do we get involved? Let's look at some of the mistakes that people make. What are the mistakes that you see businesses make when trying to get involved with NHS procurement, Michael?
I think it's not really understanding what the business is. People from the outside looking at it and go, it's the NHS National Health Service. Unfortunately, there's not very much national about the National Health Service. You've got 250 individual providers, all have got their own budgets and targets and deliveries. It's really trying to understand the system and what is the system trying to do. Yes, this financial year we're moving into a period now where we are under financial stress and financial pressure. We are going to be putting pressure on our suppliers to help us come up with savings. But there's lots of ways to achieve savings. It's not just about how you take the penny off the pound. It's, understanding, one of our big objectives is to reduce the waiting list. Well, how can your product, service, whatever it is, help us to achieve that? So if you just come in and say, oh, I can do this cheaper, you're going to be banging your head against a brick wall. It's got to be, what are you going to help me achieve? Bring down my waiting lists, get patients out of hospital quicker, support the community in its growth of what we need to do, because we're trying to do more in community rather than acute. So it's thinking about the bigger picture, not just what the individual product is or service is going to do.
So being really clear, like any organization, being really clear about understanding what the customer's pain points are, literally, and solving that point, right? So it's a very large organization, but you gotta remain agile. How do you foster innovation and creativity within your organization, Mike?
So I'm very lucky in what I am in my organisation. We are self-funding, so I don't get any central funding, which gives me an advantage in that I don't have to do what the centre tell me to do. But obviously they play an important partner and important stakeholder, so we do listen and understand. But it allows me to make some of my own decisions and understand, right, okay, well, what is London trying to do? Where are we trying to go? And then where do I invest what our money is and how we get funding. I've got a board that's made up of a number of trusts around London, so I have to report into them. So I can't just sort of willy-nilly go, right, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But if it's in an area that we are struggling in London, so we've got a lot of deprivation in London in certain areas, and we've got some very wealthy areas of London. So we've got huge inequalities. Because my role is regional, I'm able to support trusts in slightly different ways to try and look at how we balance some of those things up.
Turning towards Michael for a second and just looking at Michael's career, because it's been a brilliant journey. Have there been any pivotal moments or decisions that have significantly impacted that path that you took?
Two really was one, going to the US. And it was a massive decision because I had 3 small children at the time. So sort of picking them up and taking them to a completely new country. We had a wonderful 5 years, and a lot of things that I learned in the US and working in a different system, still in procurement, but working in a different system, working in a different way, certainly helped me to do some of the things that I can do today. The other, I suppose, pivotal moment was the business I was working for, and unfortunately crashed in 2011. And the way my visa was set up with the company was it was tied to that particular business. So we came back home in 2011. And it was really sort of coming back and starting all over again. To be probably about 7 years ago, came in as an interim because I didn't want to sort of commit back into being an employee in the NHS, and that was sort of the start of dragging me back into to be an employee again.
You just mentioned those setbacks. Failures and setbacks are an essential part of all of our journeys. How do you handle those setbacks, and what lessons have you learned from them?
Coming back to the NHS, although it was frustrating in lots of things for me, actually it was wonderful in many other ways, because it gave me that time and that opportunity to sort of really take stock of what I wanted and rebuild those 5-year plans and 10-year plans. Taking your time, take a step back, don't get blinkered, don't get sucked into the situation. It is really difficult, but if you can take that time and you can find the opportunities.
You already said your husband. You're a busy dad. You're running a huge team with a massive amount of responsibility and pressure. I mean, 1.2 billion just makes my eyes water. How on earth do you maintain a work-life balance, and what strategies do you use to avoid burnout?
It's really difficult, and you've got to put some time and effort into it. If you don't put time and effort into it, it's really easy to get sucked in, and over times I have done that. I make sure that when we go on holiday, we go away on nice holidays, so I make sure that I try to get away so I can have a break. I'm usually fine, like the first 2 or 3 days I'm just trying to unwind and not be tired in front of the kids. Then I'll have a week with the kids, and then you start feeling the stress of getting ready to come back again. So that was a usual cycle for me. I've done it. I've been very lucky in this role. I have a business coach, and I've done a lot of work with my business coach to help me to be more present when I'm not at work. It's very easy to sort of fall into that thing, right, and give everything into work, and then you have time at home, but you're not really present.
Turning back towards business and work again, you'll have seen a lot of businesses pitching and trying to get involved in NHS procurement. What strategies, can you share any effective strategies that you've seen work really well for businesses that have wanted to get involved in NHS procurement and supply?
The most successful ones are the ones that really get involved in the business and really understand, what we're about and what are our pressure points. It's quite easy. We're walking into quite a difficult financial situation this financial year. So looking in from the outside, it's quite easy to go, oh, well, we just give it, we can give it cheaper, and that's not what we're looking for in the NHS. We are looking to have better quality than what we've had before. We've got to be really careful on pricing, but we're looking at other ways to make savings. If I can do something differently that stops a patient coming into hospital, that's quite a significant saving. If we can find a way to get the patient out of bed after 5 days rather than 7 days, as long as it's safe, then again I'm making savings because I haven't got that patient in the bed for 2 days. So it's understanding what our problems are and how your product or service can actually help us with those problems, not just because it's cheaper.
What role has building great relationships played in your journey, Michael?
It's played a massive role. Without the relationships that I've built and the people that I've got to know over my career, I probably wouldn't have had the career that I've had. The public sector, you have to go through a process, but I've gone into most of those processes knowing that I'm probably the lead candidate or one of the lead candidates in there. So I've just got to make sure I'm doing the right thing at the right places. In my private sector career, I've been tapped on the shoulder and been appointed into roles, and that's because of the network that I've built up and the relationships that I've built with people. People get to know who you are and they like working with you, it helps. Doesn't just help when you're sort of moving careers. It helps in the day-to-day role as well. There's lots of people I still know in the private sector. If I'm having a particular issue which I'm not sure about, I can give them a call and talk to them and get a different perspective from their side and from a private sector.
We're in a fast-moving world, and it applies
Yes.
just as much in the NHS as
Yes.
anywhere else. How on earth do you stay up to date on latest trends and development of technologies to make sure that you're remaining competitive?
The two strategies that I've adopted is, first, I've built a really strong team around me. I've gone out of my way to make sure that yes, there is some NHS experience in there, but I want other experiences there as well. I don't want people like me sitting around my exec table. I want different opinions and different views. And we've had some heated discussions in some of my exec meetings before. As long as they stay in the exec meeting room, that's fine. But it's really helped us to sort of be a very strong organization and bring some diversity to our ideas and our thinking. And the other thing I do is, I make sure I network as much as I can, and I get out to as many conferences and workshops as I can to sort of listen and get different viewpoints as well.
So, Michael, tell me, thinking about businesses that want to get involved and supply their goods or services to the NHS, what advice or words of wisdom would you give to those businesses?
So the easiest way is to get yourself on a framework or a dynamic purchasing system, and that they're not easy things to do. Frameworks are big, lumpy, challenging things to go through. There's a lot of paperwork involved in them. But if you can get yourself onto them at the start of them, they're a great route into market. It's a compliant route for people to be able to sort of pick up the framework and then move forward. There's another tool called a dynamic purchasing system that gives us a lot more flexibility from the procurement side of things. We can add suppliers to that, and we can change certain things within that. But you do have to sort of keep going through mini competitions. So although it's much easier to sort of set it up, there's a lot more work through the life of the DPS for a supplier. But it's a really good way for smaller companies to get involved with the NHS and to sort of give us some of that agility and innovation. So having said that, we know that's all going to change in the near future. We've got the new procurement bill going through Parliament at the minute. Talk is that it's probably going to be early 2024 that it's going to hit us, and what we're being told is that there's going to be some fundamental changes in the way that we do need to work. In lots of respects, we're going to be allowed to be a bit more agile and a little bit more lean in terms of something similar to what we've got with the dynamic purchasing system. But then I've read other parts of the bill where I've got 10 more forms that I've got to complete than what I've got today. So we're not too sure what's going to happen with the bill. I think it's on its third reading in Parliament at the minute. So we're trying to keep abreast of the changes and make sure we're prepared. But so there will be changes happening. So look out for that. And again, like I said earlier, help us to sort of understand those as well. So we're all going to be learning next year.
What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self, having had such a fantastic journey?
I think first of all, I'd probably tell him to make a few more better financial decisions to have an easier time this end of life. Coming out of school and not really sure what I was going to do and not being inspired by things, just sort of hard work. Listen to people around you. Don't be so arrogant not to take advice on things, and make your own decisions, but listen to people around you as well.
Michael, you've been a brilliant guest. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for sharing your journey, and also for giving us some insight into how businesses can get involved with NHS procurement. It's been great to see you. Thank you.
No, thanks, Mark. It's been really enjoyable.
Folks, if you'd like to come and join us on Business Spotlight and share your story like Michael has just done, we'd love to see you. Comment, apply below, get in touch, and we'll fix up a recording. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.